As a religious holiday or even as a secular holiday of colored eggs and candy, Easter is a joyous day. And yet, the joy always arrives on the heels of tremendous sorrow. There is no Easter hope without the betrayal, arrest, and execution of Good Friday. Within a span of days, there is a tremendous reversal, not only from life to death, from death to life, but from despair to hope, from a sense of unwelcome finality to a beginning, a sense of growing possibility. Can you imagine what those 3 days must have been like for those closest to Jesus? I should say that I approach the biblical text as story, as powerful literature whose contours and content have shaped the culture in which we live. Today, we pause to listen to an ancient story that may yet surprise us, may yet teach us something new about life and, yes, even death. So us put ourselves in the story and imagine what it might have been like for those closest to Jesus on those 3 days, or indeed what it had been like for the prior 3 years as their despair over life as they knew it collided with a charismatic teacher who gave them hope that life could and would be different. For this hope, his disciples abandoned work and security to become itinerant students, part of a movement promising a different future, until it all seemed to end on a forlorn place known as Golgotha. At what places and moments has a dream of yours died? Sometimes it can be hard to name a specific time or place. At times, hopes quietly fade until we realize, or perhaps do not even notice, that the dreams are simply gone. And other times, a phone call may come that upends all we imagined what the future would be. Whether loss arrives suddenly or gradually, I suspect all of us gathered here today have felt some sense of loss of possibility and of what we anticipated the future to be. On Thursday night, with many of you, I watched the 10-year remembrance of Lauren Dunn Astley. This drove home how tremendous loss can arrive so suddenly. Lauren, who grew up in this church and in this town, was a confident, effervescent young woman who loved life, her friends, her family, and singing. And then shortly after her high school graduation, Lauren was tragically murdered following a breakup. A victim of the pernicious, multi-threaded pattern of violence that kills too many beloved daughters and women, as well as too many sons and men, including trans men and women. While not yet the minister of this church, I lived nearby and could feel the grief radiating from this community at the time of her death. At the end of Thursday's 10-year remembrance event, Lauren's mom, Mary, asked us to tell her story, to say her name. Lauren's loss continues to generate enormous waves of grief among many, rightly so. Yet through remembering Lauren, she remains. Through telling her story, we find a new hope to prevent such loss from happening to another family, a different community. While many of us may never know the grief of losing a child, we do all know loss. We do all know grief. We have some sense of what it is like to anticipate one future only to find ourselves turned towards a different path. Over this last year of pandemic, we have all felt this reversal of expectation in a new way, as our collective and individual anticipations of what comes next rapidly shifted. I imagine this rapid shift of expectation is some of what Jesus' disciples were feeling as they watched him arrested, tried, and executed. Time suddenly ruptured into a before and an after. What a reversal then to discover an empty tomb just days later. What a reversal from thinking that the story of Jesus was over to suddenly wondering, what now? And reflecting upon this unexpected reversal, I began to notice just how many reversals there are in the Easter story. In the passage from Luke 23 that Alex read for us, there are actually multiple reversals. First, there is the reversal of legal jurisdiction. Either happy to be rid of a problem or respectful of another's authority, Pilate sends Jesus to Herod. Then Herod sends Jesus back to Pilate. This exchange suddenly reverses what had been animosity between the two leaders into friendship. With Jesus back under Pilate's authority, Pilate attempts to effect another reversal by suggesting Jesus be released. Instead, the crowd clamors for the release of Barabbas, a murderer and insurrectionist. To me, this sounds a bit crazy, another kind of reversal of good judgment, perhaps. It was certainly a reversal of fate for Barabbas. When Pilate concedes to ordering Jesus's execution and hands Jesus over, Jesus is then led away. But a man from the crowd is seized to carry the heavy wooden beam that would form the means of execution, the cross. Why that man? Why is his name, Simon of Cyrene, recorded? Simon's sudden reversal not only changed his day, but also his legacy, which shifted from likely oblivion to a footnote in a text that would remain for millennia. What if the reversal from death to life is not the only important truth in the Easter story? The many reversals in the story reveal a chaos of grief and anger, friendship and hatred, loyalty and betrayal. From this messy story, I draw the assurance that following the experience of grief, sorrow, and struggle, the possibility of new hope may arrive. I love Easter Sunday for celebrating this promise of hope. And I love the Easter season for never divorcing the hope from the struggle, the promise from the grief. The joy and the sorrow, the grief and the hope are inextricable, part of one story. In Jerusalem 2 millennia ago, and today in Wayland. This is our story, our human story. We live out stories that can be chaotic and full of unexpected and sometimes unwelcome reversals. We live carrying within us the memories of dreams that will not be. We hold the names and stories of all the people whom we have lost along the way. And I say that looking around this room, thinking about the people that I have seen here and knowing so many more that you have loved have been in these pews too. And I think of that gorgeous photo of Lauren sitting here on the stairs with the youth group that I've seen many times. We remember these names. And we hold on to a sense of tomorrow. We can dream of what may come in a new day. We can work now to make that other world become the one that others will someday inhabit, perhaps one with less violence and less injustice. Without this possibility of something new, how could we ever bear the grief? We need Easter. We need the possibility of a new beginning that follows the despair. We need to believe that life and love and the story will continue. Jesus' story did live on, whatever may or may not have happened to Jesus' body after his death. By continuing to tell the stories that mean something to us, whether from an ancient text or experiences we have known, we not only keep the stories and the people in them alive, but we also help to teach something of human life to the next generation and the next. With its combined story of grief and hope, of reversals and resurrection, Easter can teach us to believe in a new day, even when we are still holding on the grief of our losses. So may it be. Amen.